Go. Hey, welcome back to my channel, Make It with Mel. I'm Mel, and on today's episode I am going to do a seafood recipe. So on my last video I had a comment asking to do a seafood recipe, so I wanted to show you guys that yes, I listen and yes, I deliver. So I'm gonna show you how to do a recipe for salmon croquette. So I'm from Chicago, the South Side, and my dad's side of the family is primarily from Louisiana and Arkansas. So that means that I grew up eating a lot of Southern food and a lot of soul food. My granny, she was an amazing cook. I mean, like, amazing. One of the recipes that my mom used to always be like, call your granny and ask her how to make her salmon croquette, because she didn't want to call her. So I would call her and I would ask her and she would walk me through it. So then I just started getting the hang of it, but I would always still call her just like double check, just because that was just our relationship. But anywho, when she taught me how to make it, she used canned salmon. So for me, I try not to use canned foods. If I can, I will, you know, for some recipes, because one, it's just easier, and sometimes I just don't feel like making something from scratch. But when I can, it's a healthier option to always make it fresh. So we're gonna use fresh salmon, and yeah, like simple recipe, simple ingredients like peppers, red onion, eggs, breadcrumbs. It's actually really easy. You'll see in a second. So before we get started, make sure you subscribe, like, and if you can, share. Also comment below if you try it, or again, if you have other recipes that you want me to show you how to do. As you see, I will gladly do it. Just give me a little bit of time to upload them. Also, I have a question for you guys. When you grew up, did you say salmon or salmon? So growing up, I always said salmon, like I pronounced the L, because that's how everyone around me said it. I don't know if it's like regional, but let me know. I didn't start not pronouncing the L until I moved to New York, and people were like, girl, you don't pronounce the L. And I was like, oh, I've been pronouncing the L. So let me know below, and like always, if you have any questions, let me know. Let's get started. Okay, so for the croquettes, you will need a salmon fillet, seasoning and marinade of your choice, breadcrumbs, 2 large eggs, a red onion, and mixed peppers. I seasoned the fillet with black pepper and chili lime seasoning that I got from Trader Joe's. I also used this black-owned Marinade. I definitely went light on the seasoning, just because whenever you use a marinade or you're cooking with peppers, you don't necessarily need a lot of seasoning. So I'm just gonna use this, definitely supporting black-owned businesses. If you guys know any black seasoning companies, well, black-owned seasoning companies. To cook, we're gonna use a Dutch oven and a skillet. You can just use a skillet, but I love cooking my croquettes in a Dutch oven. So we have the red onion, green pepper, red pepper, yellow, and orange. We are just going to use half of each for the recipe. Make sure that you rinse out the inside as well as take out your seeds. You can just trash that. To cut peppers and onions, I use the slice and dice method. So I slice the peppers or onions the long way, and then I dice them. I don't know if it's the actual name, but it's what I call it. Honestly though, if you have a food processor, you can cut them up into like maybe like fourths and just kind of toss it in there and let the food processor do the work. That's what I normally do, but for the sake of showing you guys how to actually cut up peppers and onions, and knowing that not everyone has a food processor, I wanted to take the time to actually do it. So as you're cutting up the peppers and onions, I'm just putting it into a small bowl. You will see why I'm not putting it into the mixing bowl right away in a second. Also, I just want to say that I am by no means an expert in cutting up onions, or, I don't have knife skills, but I'm definitely planning on learning. That was on my to-do list, and then COVID happened. So the red onion, I would say I actually just used a fourth of it just because I didn't realize how large it was and I didn't want it to be too oniony. Also, if you find that onions make you cry, you can just rinse them under cold water and it will kind of help with that. Time to cook our salmon fillet. So the fillet was too big, so I had to cut it in half. So we're going to cook it in halves. Put it in olive oil and you're just going to cook it in the pan until it's done. It will usually tell you when it's done. You will stop seeing the pink. Because we're not eating the fillet as is, I'm cooking it all the way through and not leaving any pink like maybe you would if you're just cooking the fillet. So the skin will come off. You could just move the fillet to the side and kind of take that skin out of the pan, just because it's just taking up room at this point, room that you could be using to cook your salmon. So toss that in the trash because you don't want to eat that. And we're just going to let the fillet cook a little longer. And it should be ready to come out. And we're just going to set it to the side while we cook. Well, don't waste any of the meat. So make sure you get all those pieces out. You also don't want them to burn if you leave them in while the other half of the fillet is cooking. So we're just gonna put the other half that one cook for a few minutes, and now it's time to take that out. Okay, so trust me, this part is optional, but I do recommend it. You're gonna take your grease from your salmon and you're gonna saute your onions and peppers. It makes it a little more, actually it makes it a lot more flavorful, and it makes the peppers and onions a little more tender. That way when you mix them into your croquette, they're not as raw and crunchy. So you'll let your peppers simmer for a couple minutes, stir them around again. In your Dutch oven, you're going to put some olive oil in there so that it can get nice and hot while you prep your patties. So to prep the patties, we're just going to take a fork and I guess dice up the salmon fillet. Get it not super small, just because I like for some of the chunks to be in the patty, but get it, grounded as much as possible. Ground, that's the word I was looking for. Okay, so yeah, keep grounding it up to make some of those larger pieces smaller. Add your peppers, add a little bit at a time, just to make sure that you're not putting too much in there. And you just kind of eyeball it. That's how you know. Mix it up a little bit more. After the peppers are mixed up, you're going to take the bowl that you had the peppers in and add your eggs. I always like to add them into a separate bowl, beat them. So a reason why I do that is because sometimes eggs are bad, and if you pour it straight in there, you'll mess up, your whole mixture. So never just dump eggs in there. You're going to add a half a cup of breadcrumbs in there at a time, just to make sure that it's not too much. And then, you're going to end up adding a full cup. So now it's time to make our croquettes. So you're going to make them around the same size you would make like a small hamburger. With our mixture, we have enough for about 10 to 12 patties, but we're gonna cook 5 at a time because that's what we can fit comfortably in our Dutch oven. And just so you know, you don't have to use a Dutch oven, a cast iron skillet, or a regular skillet or pan will work. You're gonna be able to fit about 5 comfortably, like I said. You really only have to cook them for about 5 to 6 minutes each side, just because the salmon, remember, is already cooked and we already sauteed the onions and peppers. So after you flip them over, you really only have to flip them over that one time. You're just making sure that the egg cooks and that it's a solid croquette or patty. Now, if you can peek in the corner, I have a rack that I'm putting them on. I have underneath the rack a paper towel to catch the grease, well, the oil. That way, you know, we can drain some of that oil so we're not eating that. While we are using olive oil, you still don't want to consume a lot of oil. That's just a little, you know, side note. I'm not a doctor or anything, but I just know we shouldn't be consuming a lot of unnecessary oil. Now our second batch is ready to be flipped over. I'm not gonna lie, I was able to flip 4 of them over easily, and then that 5th one right there, you see me, struggling. So I had to do that off camera because it just was not cooperating, and that's fine because that's real. So they're all ready to come out. It's been about 10 to 11 minutes. And yeah, you just take them out, put them right on that rack, like I said, to drain that oil out. And you just wait a couple minutes. And then voila, your finished products. I always like to pair this with rice or spinach or any type of like green vegetable, and I'll typically use like a little bit of hot sauce or whatever type of sauce that you like. And yeah, that's it. Salmon Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. I will see you next time. Bye.